It is a cold morning in 1934, and my grandmother Della is standing at a washstand with a chipped enamel basin, a worn flannel cloth, and a bar of plain soap gone thin as a communion wafer. That basin, that cloth, that sliver of soap is the entire bathroom shelf my grandmother never bought. Somewhere in your house there is a shelf that tells a different story. Body wash in 3 cents, a day cream and a separate night cream, an exfoliating scrub, a $30 repair cream, a jar for the elbows and another for the heels, a fresh comb every year. The health and beauty aisle runs on one rule. There is a separate product for every single inch of you, and you are always one product short. Della never got that message. Her whole routine, skin and hands and teeth and hair, fit on one small washstand, cost pennies, and held up for a lifetime. And here's the part that I will never print on the label. Your skin is not dirty and starved for products. It is doing its own quiet work all night long, and most of that shelf is busy undoing it. So pour your coffee and settle in, and if the porch light's already on for you, subscribe before we start. We spin less, we waste nothing, and we keep the old wisdom the drugstore would rather you forget. Today I will walk you through my grandmother's whole day at that washstand. 5 things: a cloth, a bar of plain soap, and a few things out of the kitchen. And the last one, the thing she did every night without fail, is why she still had every tooth in her head at 81. Stay with me for that one. Let me explain what my grandmother meant, because the whole washstand hangs on it. She used to say the body does its cleaning out overnight, and your only job in the morning is to meet it halfway. And she was more right than she ever knew. Your skin makes its own oil, and it sheds and renews itself while you sleep, and a night's worth of that quiet work is the best conditioning money can't buy. Strip it all off every morning with a foaming scrub, and your skin does the only sensible thing it knows. It makes more oil to cover the loss. So you feel greasy by noon and buy a product to dry it out. Then you go dry and tight by evening and buy another to grease it back. That is the loop, and it is a beautiful piece of business. The scrub creates the very problem the repair cream is sold to fix, and you are paying at both ends of it. The beauty industry even has a proud name for wanting you to do more of this. They call it your routine, and a good one is supposed to run 10 steps now: cleanser and toner and serum and essence, and I have lost count of the rest. Each one a bottle, each bottle a little monthly tax on your own face. My grandmother's routine ran 1 step. She washed. Catherine Beecher, a real woman who wrote the household Bible of her day, put the plain version down in 1841 in a book called A Treatise on Domestic Economy, a whole chapter on cleanliness, and the instruction came down to a basin, a cloth, and clean water. Not a shelf, a basin. So here is the first thing on that stand, and it is the spine of the whole business. The morning washdown. My grandmother filled that enamel basin with clean water, cool or a little warmed off the stove, wrung out the flannel cloth, and washed from the top down. Face, then neck, under the arms, the chest, down the arms and the legs, wringing the cloth as she worked, always top to bottom, and then she dried off quick with a rough towel and put on clean underthings. That was her whole bath most days of the week, out there where the only running water was whatever you carried up from the spring house in a bucket. She changed her underthings often and let the worn ones air on a line before they went back in the drawer, because clean cloth against clean skin was half the trick right there. And she set the basin and the cloth and the towel out the night before, laid ready, because she said if you have to go hunting for the cloth at 6 in the morning with a cold floor under your feet, the habit never sticks. Now I want to be honest with you, because this channel does not tell you things that are not true. This is not me saying never touch soap again. Soap earns its keep exactly where sweat and dirt collect, under the arms and the feet, and Della kept that thin bar right there for those spots and no others. Where soap was truly earned, she used it. Everywhere else, it was water and a cloth. I have washed down at a basin the same way for near on 40 years, and I have never once smelled of anything but water and clean skin. No gel, no scrub, no loofah with a name I cannot pronounce. The modern version of her washdown is a 10-minute hot shower with 4 bottles lined up along the ledge. And I have nothing against a shower, but you do not need the 4 bottles. And here is the number that I would rather you did not sit down and add up. The body wash, the shower gel, the little tub of exfoliating scrub. For one person that runs $30 to $60 a year, every year, forever. 2 people in the house, you double it. A cloth cost you nothing you do not already own, and the water was going down the drain anyway. $30 to $60 a year per person to rinse off water your own body already handled while you slept. Now the hands. If your hands are anything like mine, they are the part of you that shows the work first, and every year the drugstore has a fresh answer for that. A day cream and a night cream and a repair balm for the knuckles, $8 or $10 a jar and used up by spring. My grandmother's answer sat in the pot left over from supper, a boiled potato. She kept one by the basin, boiled soft and cooled to just warm, and when her hands went rough from the cold pump water and the endless kitchen work, cut it open and rubbed the cut face of it over her hands, worked it in good, let it sit a minute, then rinsed with cool water. And she never poured the potato water out either. On the worst days, when the wind off the fields had split her knuckles, she soaked her hands in the warm potato water for a few minutes and got the same softening for the price of nothing at all. Her neighbour down the road, a woman named Ruth Bowen, used to laugh at her for it, right up until the winter Ruth's own knuckles cracked and bled, and after that, Ruth kept a potato by her basin too. Now people hear this and they think winter only, chapped January knuckles and nothing else. It is not a winter trick. It is for any hands at work. A gardener in July, a nurse washing her hands 40 times a shift, a mechanic, a young mother, anybody whose hands are in and out of water all day long. The potato does the same soft and smooth work in the heat of August that it does in a cold snap. Lydia Maria Child, another real woman, printed it back in 1832 in The American Frugal Housewife. And her words were that boiled potatoes cleanse the hands as well as common soap and keep the skin soft and healthy. Do the arithmetic on a jar of hand cream over a life. Say a jar every couple of months, $10 a jar, $60 a year, over 50 years of keeping house. That is $3,000 of hand cream that a nickel potato did the same work of. My grandmother never owned a single jar of hand cream, not one, in 90 years of hands that never quit working. Now hear me, this is a comfort for working hands and not a treatment for anything. If your hands are cracked and bleeding, that is a doctor and not a potato. But for the ordinary roughness of an ordinary hard-working life, supper made the answer, and it cost her the water to boil it. Let me stop on a small thing that stands in for the whole idea, the comb. My grandma kept the same comb better than 30 years, and not from sentiment, because she oiled it. A comb of horn or wood or bone, and back then they very nearly all were, will dry out if you let it, and a dried comb goes brittle and splits its teeth and snags your hair, so you throw it out and buy the next one, a new comb every year or two, on and on forever. Once a month, or whenever it looked dry and dull, she rubbed a few drops of oil into it, any light oil, whatever was standing in the kitchen, and buffed it clean with a rag. When the shine finally went off it, she worked in a little paste of baking soda and a single drop of oil, rubbed it back to a polish, and it looked new again. That is the entire method. Child wrote that one down too, in the very same 1832 book, that horn combs last a great deal longer for having oil rubbed into them once in a while. That comb came to her the year she married, in 1931, and she was still running it through her hair the year she passed. 30 years and more on a few cents of oil, set against a new comb every couple of years for those same 30 years. You can do that arithmetic on the back of an envelope. But that comb taught me something bigger than combs. Everything that gets a little oil lasts. Everything left to dry out cracks. That is true of a horn comb, and it is true of a good wooden bowl. And I have come to believe it is true of the woman holding both of them. Now, before I get to the last one, I want to show you what sat on that washstand, right next to the cloth. Soap. But not a shelf full of soaps. One bar. Let me say this plain first, because I mean it, and I say it every single time. Everything I am telling you today is history. It is the way my grandmother did it, and the way the old books wrote it down. And it is here to teach and to remember, not to doctor anybody. I am not a doctor. I am not treating a single thing on you, and I am not curing a single thing on you. Skin is different on every body. Results are different in every house. And if something on you is cracked or bleeding or will not heal, you go see a real professional and not a video from a woman in a farmhouse. What we are talking about here is a smaller shelf and a lighter bill. That is all it ever was. With that said, here is what the old books reached for instead of the beauty counter. Plain Castile soap, which is nothing but olive oil made into soap. A short, honest ingredient list and no perfume in it. A bar that runs $1 or $2 and lasts you the better part of the winter. The drugstore will sell you that same olive oil soap today under a fancy label and a candle smell for 4 and 5 times the price. And it is the identical thing underneath the wrapper. And for skin that was really fighting back, rough heels, chapped patches, that same child book from 1832 recommended rubbing the spot with Castile soap and afterward with a little honey. Now, I am not going to stand here and promise you that cures anything, because I do not know that it does, and honestly, neither did the book. It is written down as what they did, not as a promise anybody is making you. What I can tell you for dead certain is the price. A bar of plain soap and a spoon of honey out of the cupboard, set against the $30 jar of repair cream that is mostly water and a French word on the label. That is the trade the aisle would rather you never sat down and weighed. And that thin bar of soap on her washstand, the one worn down to a wafer, she made it herself, and it never cost her a dime. My grandmother saved cooking fat all year long, every spoonful of drippings scraped into a covered tin on the back of the stove, and what looked like kitchen scrapings was really a bar of soap that just had not happened yet. That tin sat there through every season, and every time she poured off bacon grease or trimmed the fat from a roast, in it went, a spoonful at a time, and none of us thought a thing of it. Then January came, and it turned into the whole family's soap. By then she had enough saved to make a full batch, near 8 pounds of it, enough to keep the house in soap for months, and the fat was free, because it would have been thrown out. Now, I am not going to walk you through the making of it, and I want to be plain about why. Real soap is made with lye, and lye is caustic. It will burn skin and eyes, and it is a process that takes real care and real instruction that a video like this one simply cannot give you safely. The government itself printed the method for housekeepers in a 1933 radio broadcast, and even the government spent half of it on the warnings. So I will skip the recipe and keep the lesson. And the lesson is only this: she threw nothing away. And the throwing nothing away was the soap. I have written the whole washstand down, every method and exactly where it comes from, in the little book, and I will leave it below for anyone who wants it on paper. But you do not need the book to begin. You need a cloth. Now here is the last one, the one I told you to stay for. And of everything on that washstand, this is the one that mattered most of all, because this is the one that decided whether my grandmother spent her old age in a dentist's chair or at her own kitchen table. Every single night, the last thing before bed, my grandmother cleaned her teeth. Not sometimes, not when she happened to remember. Every night of her life, front and back and the sides, careful and thorough, and then rinsed clean with water. Sometimes. She used the corner of that same flannel cloth from the washdown, sometimes a soft brush, sometimes a pinch of baking soda for a little grit. That was a whole ritual. It took her 2 minutes, and it was the last thing standing between her and her pillow every night for 80 years running. There is a plain reason it had to be night. Night is the long stretch when nothing is rinsing your mouth, so whatever you leave on your teeth at bedtime sits there and works against you until morning. Get it off before you sleep, and you take away its whole shift. Child put it in a single line back in 1832, and it may be the plainest health advice ever given to a soul. If you wish to preserve fine teeth, always clean them thoroughly after your last meal at night. That is the whole of it. After the last meal, before sleep, every night, no exceptions. And here is what those 2 minutes bought her. My grandmother had every tooth in her head at 81, and she never once sat in a chair to have them saved. I can still see her at that kitchen table at 80, lifting a whole apple out of the bowl and biting straight into it. No wincing, no glass of anything soaking overnight on the windowsill. Teeth she was born with, kept by 2 minutes and a pinch of soda. Think hard on what that is worth today. A single crown runs better than $1,000 now. A whole mouth's worth of trouble runs into the tens of thousands, and a set of dentures on top of that is a couple thousand more, and a lifetime of them soaking in a cup by the bed. Half this country puts off going in the door for exactly those numbers. The nightly habit was free. The dentist is the one who sends the bill. Now hear me plainly, because this is a hygiene habit, and it is not a cure. You use a modern fluoride toothpaste, which my grandmother never had in her life, and you keep the dentist you already have, because catching trouble early is its own kind of thrift. But those 2 minutes at the basin before bed are the cheapest dental plan ever written, and they are the reason the dentist stayed a stranger to her all her long life. So look at that washstand one more time. A basin, a cloth, a thin bar of soap she made from scraps, a boiled potato from the supper pot, a few drops of oil, a pinch of baking soda before bed. That is the entire bathroom shelf my grandmother never bought, and it carried her skin and her hands and her hair and her teeth from a Depression-era farmhouse all the way to 81 years old, on pennies. The drugstore aisle would need a whole wall and $100 a year to sell you back what fit on one small stand in a cold back bedroom. That aisle was never really selling you soap. What it sells is the worry that you are not doing enough, and then a separate product to quiet each worry it planted in you. My grandmother was never once sold that worry. She washed her face, oiled her comb, rubbed a potato on her hands, and went to bed with clean teeth, and it was enough, because it always had been. Now I want to hear from you, because I know good and well your family had a washstand too. What did your mother or your grandmother use instead of a store product for her skin, her hair, her hands? Tell me down in the comments the one that still works. I read them and I try them. This is Granny Pearl, and I will leave the porch light on for you.